In today's episode, I want to talk about 5 things that's going to make your backstory better, and why it's important. Welcome to Tales from My Table. So, the first thing I want to talk about is, what is backstory? In my opinion, backstory is the thing that informs your character. And what I mean by that is basically what makes your character the way they are when the game starts. But the other thing that backstory is, that not a lot of people talk about, is that your backstory is a gift to your GM. What do I mean by that? Your backstory is something that you create of his world. Locations, peoples, things that are happening, points of interest for you as a player and a character all can come out of your backstory and give their GM a gift, something to work with, something that they can make the campaign better with. So use that stuff. And some people are in it a little bit more than others, right? Like, you hear GMs that get like 7-page mini novels about their player's character, and everything from their favorite color to that they like yogurt on Wednesdays. And that's probably a little excessive, but you know what? You be you, man. Whatever works. But far more commonly, we get the other side of that spectrum. Normally we just get death, 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 death. My family's dead, my husband's dead, my wife's dead, my kids are dead, my whole village is dead. And that's it. That's their whole backstory. And we're going to talk about it, but death is actually can be a good thing for a backstory, but with other things, or in moderation, or not at all. So let's talk about it. So let's talk about 5 ways that you can make your backstory better. Or maybe just the way you can go about building a backstory. So, first and foremost, let's talk about tragedy. Tragedy, I think, is a cornerstone of how to build a character. Your tragedy can be anything. Yes, it can be death, 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 right? Like, your family died, your whatever happened, sure, that totally works. But there's other things that might be more interesting. Let's talk about some examples. Things that could be a tragedy are something like your loving wife or husband that you cared about all of a sudden betrayed you and sold you into slavery. Or your son who you were grooming to take position in the company once you died, all of a sudden tried to have you killed and then exiled you from the area. Or maybe you got kicked out of the military with a dishonorable discharge, and it's something that haunts you to this day. So in those examples, they are things that are still active in their life. Their wife still exists out there, their son still exists out there. There's still people alive to cause problems and to deal with. The military still exists, and he'll see it every time he walks into a town. He sees this town guard walking by. There's all of these things that can still affect your character in the game, and that's a good thing. The reason I talked about tragedy first is because everything we talk about from here, the other 4 points, are all going to relate back to your tragedy. And that does a few things. It, for one, makes it more impactful, because everything's going to be connected to it. So it'll always be at the forefront of your mind. How often do people write backstories and it's written down on paper when they first start the game, and then they never think about it again? And that doesn't inform your character, right? So let's go on to the second point. Now, this may be slightly controversial to make the second as opposed to first, but hear me out. Motivation is what a lot of people consider to be the most important part of their backstory. And I think that's true. But I also think without something to connect it to. So why we did tragedy first. But anyway, it is important to make those connections. So, motivation. What does that mean? Motivation can be a lot of things. But first and foremost, the most important part is, why are you here with the party? This piece of information is vitally important to your character and to the game. Now, a lot of people play games and they're like, hey, we meet in a tavern. Hey, wanna go slay the dragon? Rah! And whatever, that's a certain way of playing. That's cool. If that's your gig, whatever. But for me, I want my characters to know each other. I want it to be important, and I want them to be stuck together by something that holds them there, right? What are good motivations? Well, you should definitely tie it back to your tragedy in some way. How would you do that? Things like, why did your wife betray you? You need to find out. You need to find out why she would do that to you. You loved her. That's a great motivation. Something to strive for. Maybe she lives in a faraway land now and it's going to take you have to get a bunch of money, or you need to get a hold of an airship, or you need to travel by plane. Whatever the situation is, it requires effort for you to go about and a reason for you to be making money, adventuring, doing all that kind of stuff. What about the other one? What happened with your son? Was it just greed? Was something... Do you need to go kick him out of your past position and put someone else in charge? Was someone pulling his strings? Like, these are great questions that can motivate a character to continue forward. What about clearing your name in the military and proving that it wasn't you that did whatever that horrible thing was that you got kicked out for? These are big plot concept motivations that give you something to work for. And, more importantly, a reason to be together in your party. Or, what if your motivation for being in this group is that you're a bodyguard? What if you're a Yojimbo for some samurai in your group, and you get the cool interaction of being like, I need to stay with this man because I'm charged with protecting him, but he's also my friend. Different things like that. Reasons to be together. So let's talk about 3. Your Nemesis. Building NPCs in your backstory is awesome. And the reason is because it gives the GM something to work with, and it also gives you someone who you know in the back of your brain that if that character ever comes up, or something happens in the game, you're like, aha! That's the guy that ate my squash. No, that's horrible. He's the guy that ate my cupcake? Whatever the situation, probably something more important than that. Matter of fact, your nemesis in a lot of ways could be directly tied to your tragedy. It could be your son from the example earlier. It could be your wife. It could be your wife's lover, the reason that she actually left you and went to kick you out of the city. A nemesis is awesome. Your nemesis doesn't have to be Lex Luthor to your Superman. Like, it can be something else. It can be an old friend that just stopped being your friend. It can be a ex-lover. What if your nemesis is your old magic teacher who is jealous of you and your power and has shunned you? That's a cool nemesis. All of these other things that are rich with concept, but don't have to be stereotypical comic book villain. 4th is allies. Again, it's NPCs again, but in a different concept. Allies can be a lot of different things too. It doesn't have to be a singular person. Like, yes, your ally can be your old magic apprentice, or your best friend from childhood, or your old cop buddy on the force, right? Those can all be allies. People that you have in your pocket of, you go into a city and you're like, oh yeah, hey, GM, is this person in this city, is my ally in the city, or whatever the situation is? You can totally do that. It can also be something slightly more nebulous. It could be like a secret society that you were part of. It could be the town's guard that you used to, give food to, or maybe a cop force that all used to come over to your house for football. Allies can be individuals or bigger picture people. One thing you want to be careful about is to make sure that you deal a lot with your GM about these. Don't just write in your character sheet, I am best friends with the most powerful guild in the world and blah blah blah, and they will do anything for me. Be reasonable. Talk to your GM about it. Be like, hey, can I be connected to some kind of secret society in Waterdeep or whatever? More than likely they'll say yes, because again, that gives them plot hooks. And plot hooks are awesome. Fifth and finally, secrets and rumors. Secrets can be a couple different things. Secrets can be something that's just an internal secret, something that matters to your character, but isn't something in his control. Something like his birth, or maybe he was the bastard child of someone important. It can be something that can maybe matter to him, but not someone else. And although that can be a good secret, it could be better if it was a little juicier, right? So, like, think of the examples earlier. What if your wife that you love so much that kicked you out and sold you into slavery, what if you cheated on her a few years previous and she doesn't know, but you know? And maybe you think you deserve what's happening to you. I don't know. Like, that's a cool secret that's like juicy and full of information. What if you were planning to sell your company and you were sure that your son didn't know, but maybe that's why he kicked you out, but you're not sure, and so it's kind of in the back of your mind, it's that secret you don't want to tell anybody? Or what if your son isn't even your son? Maybe he's like not your biological son, but he doesn't know that? But you still love him, or did. So these are like cool ideas that can spur role-playing and gameplay and give the GM something to work with. There's also rumors. Rumors are kind of cool because they don't have to be true, right? Because rumors can be something as simple as, I heard Jack slew a dragon. Yes, that's a cool rumor. It can be very intense for certain situations. It can be useful. But maybe something more like, oh, I heard Jack didn't help this city not too far away when it was in trouble. Might not even be true. Jack might have totally helped that city. But for that rumor to be out there, it can create some interesting situations. I mean, what if your character is a happily married character and they're like, did you hear that Jack cheated on his husband? Those kind of things can spark bar fights. They can create tension in role-playing with NPCs. They can be interesting ways to get information, right? If you are known as someone who maybe in the rumor mill is a carouser and a hard drinker or whatever, they might be able to use that effectively to get information out of someone else, or to invite someone out for a night on the town, which they think is going to be a great time when it's really to steal their purse. So these 5 things that we talked about can really help you build a backstory for your character, and it can inform who you're playing. That can always change, right? Character arc is awesome. It's one of the best things about RPGs. Who you start out when you start playing, your choices, motivations, all that kind of stuff, and who you end at the end of your campaign, may be completely different characters. And that's cool. That's actually awesome. And having these 5 pillars to build your character on can just make it so much easier. So I think that's all I have to say about that. So what do you think? Are there other cornerstones that you use to make your character? Comment down below. Let me know. Tell me what you think. I'd love to hear it. Also down below you'll find in the comments a link to my Twitch channel, and which I tried to play on occasionally. And especially with Borderlands 3 coming out recently, I'm trying to stream more and more because I love that game. Anyway, please come join me. If you like what I'm doing here, please like and subscribe. It means a lot to us here at the channel. I hope to see you guys all again. Have a great time. Bye.